Everyone thought they knew how Meri Brown's story would end, but they were completely wrong. What she revealed after leaving shocked viewers, and there's one hidden clue most people missed. Subscribe now and stay with us, because this story gets more surprising every minute. Meri Brown waited longer than almost anyone expected. She waited through years of uncertainty, through moments that played out in front of millions of viewers, and through seasons of hope that seemed to fade a little more every time the cameras returned. For a long time, she believed that loyalty, patience, and commitment would eventually lead her back to the life she once imagined. But while she continued holding on, the world around her was already changing. Relationships shifted, priorities changed, and the family she had fought so hard to protect slowly became something she barely recognized. Yet despite every disappointment, she stayed. And that is what makes what happened next so extraordinary. Because when Meri finally stopped waiting, she did not just walk away from a relationship. She stepped into a completely different version of herself, a version that few people saw coming. The story begins years before the official ending. Long before public statements and announcements, there were signs that things were not what they once had been. Conversations became strained, distance became more visible, and the connection that had once formed the foundation of a marriage seemed harder and harder to find. Viewers watched as difficult truths emerged, and uncomfortable realities could no longer be ignored. Yet even as these moments unfolded, Meri continued showing up. She attended family gatherings, participated in traditions, and remained committed to a family structure that appeared increasingly fragile. From the outside, some people questioned why she stayed. Others believed she saw something that nobody else could see. But the truth may have been far more complicated. Human beings
would be difficult. Others imagined loneliness and sadness. Yet the images she shared told a different story. Warm lights, comfortable spaces, thoughtful decorations, quiet moments of gratitude. There were no grand performances, no attempts to prove anything, no dramatic statements about happiness. Instead, there was a sense of peace that felt surprisingly genuine. And that detail became increasingly important because it challenged the assumptions many people had made. For years, viewers had seen Meri through the lens of struggle. They saw the disappointments, the setbacks, and the emotional challenges. What they had not expected was to see someone who appeared content with simplicity, someone who seemed comfortable creating a life that looked very different from the one she had originally imagined. As conversations about her future continued, another aspect of her story remained especially significant. Her relationship with her child and the people closest to her had evolved over time. Publicly available information suggested warmth, support, and mutual respect. Yet many of the details remained private, and perhaps that privacy was part of what made the situation meaningful. Not every chapter of a person's life needs to be shared with the world. Some experiences are valuable precisely because they belong to the people living them, rather than the audience watching from a distance. Still, observers could not help noticing subtle signs of healing, moments that suggested old wounds were being replaced with new understandings, new connections, and new possibilities. The more people paid attention, the more they realized something unexpected. The woman many had viewed as the most tragic figure in the family narrative was slowly becoming one of the strongest. Her journey was not defined by dramatic victories or public celebrations. It was defined by resilience, by the ability to keep moving forward, even when the future seemed uncertain, by the willingness to build something new after letting go of something familiar. And that resilience became impossible to ignore. Every photograph, every update, every quiet holiday message seemed to tell the same story. A story of someone rediscovering herself after years of...
As the months passed after the separation, one question continued to follow Meri Brown everywhere she went. Was she finally at peace? Or was she simply learning how to live with disappointment? The debate grew stronger every time she shared a holiday photo, a travel update, or a quiet message from the inn. Because viewers who had watched her for years could not agree on what they were seeing. Some saw freedom, others saw loneliness.
But the truth may have been hidden somewhere between those two extremes, because real life is rarely as simple as a single emotion. What made the conversation so fascinating was the contrast between her past and present. For years, she had appeared exhausted by the effort of holding a fractured family together. She showed up to gatherings, participated in traditions, and continued investing energy into relationships that often seemed uncertain. Yet after 2023, something shifted. The woman who once looked like she was carrying the weight of everyone else suddenly seemed focused on building something for herself. And that change became most visible during the holidays. The large family celebrations that once defined her life were no longer the center of the story. Instead, the focus moved to warm lights, cozy rooms, thoughtful decorations, and moments of gratitude shared from a place that belonged entirely to her. Every photo from the inn seemed to tell a quiet story of rebuilding, and that story became impossible to ignore. Fans began examining every detail of her posts, looking for clues about how she was really doing. Who was visiting? Was she spending time with family? Was she working through the holidays? Was she happy? The answers were never fully spelled out, and perhaps that was intentional. What she shared publicly suggested appreciation, peace, and reflection, but it did not provide a complete map of her private life. And because the details remained limited, viewers filled the gaps with their own interpretations. Some believed she had finally found the independence she needed. Others wondered whether the quiet atmosphere masked a deeper sadness. Yet one thing became increasingly difficult to deny. She no longer looked like someone waiting for permission to move forward. She looked like someone creating a future on her own terms. That distinction changed everything. Another important part of the conversation involved the relationships closest to her. Over time, public signs pointed toward warmth,
Pressure of maintaining appearances. What if the peace visible in those photos was not an act, but a reflection of a life that felt more manageable, more honest, and more her own? The answer may never be fully known, because only she can truly describe what those moments feel like. But the visible change was enough to make many viewers reconsider the assumptions they had carried for years. The woman once framed as the most heartbroken member of the family was beginning to look remarkably resilient. And resilience became the defining theme of this chapter. She did not leave with a dramatic fairy tale waiting on the other side. She did not immediately step into a perfect new life. Instead, she built something slowly, through work, reflection, and persistence. She created a space that represented her efforts. She nurtured relationships that mattered. She shared moments of gratitude, and she appeared increasingly comfortable with a future that looked different from the one she had originally imagined. That kind of transformation is rarely loud. It happens in small choices, repeated over time. And perhaps that is why so many viewers missed it at first. They were waiting for a dramatic reveal, while the real story was unfolding quietly in photographs, captions, and
updates looked different. Not because every challenge had disappeared, but because she no longer seemed consumed by them. The change was subtle, yet undeniable, and it raised a fascinating question. What happens when someone spends so many years trying to save something that they forget to build something for themselves? Then, one day, they finally decide to start. That question sits at the center of this entire story, because Meri's transformation was never really about leaving. It was about creating new traditions, creating new routines, creating a new understanding of who she could be outside the identity she had carried for decades. For many viewers, this realization completely changed the way they interpreted her journey. They began to see the separation not as the ending of a chapter, but as the beginning of a long process of rediscovery. Every holiday post, every photograph from the inn, every message about gratitude seemed to reveal another small piece of that process.
And the more people paid attention, the more they noticed a pattern. She was no longer defining her worth through her place in someone else's life. She was defining it through the life she was building herself. That distinction mattered because for years, so much of the public conversation surrounding Meri focused on what she lacked, what she was not receiving, what she was missing, what she had lost. Rarely did people stop to consider what she was capable of creating on her own. Yet that became the most compelling part of her story. The bed and breakfast remained a central symbol of this transformation because it represented more than hospitality. It represented ownership, responsibility, independence. Every improvement, every event, every holiday season hosted there reinforced the same message. This was something she had built through her own effort and dedication.
Opportunities in front of them. And that mindset appeared increasingly visible in the life Meri was sharing publicly. Of course, there were still critics. Some people remained convinced that her happiness was temporary. Others argued that social media only shows selected moments, and that nobody can truly know what another person feels. Those observations are fair. Public images never tell the entire story. Yet the same principle applies to every public figure and every human being. What people can evaluate are patterns, and the pattern visible in Meri's recent life suggested growth. It suggested engagement. It suggested purpose. Whether someone viewed that as complete happiness or ongoing healing depended largely on their perspective. But either way, it was difficult to deny that something had changed. Another fascinating aspect of her journey involved the audience's relationship with her. Over the years, viewers had projected countless assumptions onto her story. Some saw her as a symbol of loyalty. Others saw her as a symbol of perseverance. Others viewed her as a cautionary tale about staying too long in difficult situations. Yet as her new chapter continued unfolding, those labels seemed increasingly inadequate. Human beings are more complex than the roles assigned to them, and Meri appeared determined to step beyond the narratives others had created. She was not simply the person who stayed. She was not simply the person who left. She was a woman navigating a complicated life and trying to create meaning from experiences both joyful and painful. That complexity made her story far more interesting than any simplified version ever could be. Then came another moment that caught the attention of longtime followers, a seemingly ordinary update that carried an unexpected emotional weight. It was not dramatic, it was not controversial, yet the atmosphere surrounding it felt different. There was confidence in the simplicity.